Why are you running for state senate?
I'm running for state senate because I believe it's time for a new generation of leadership. I first got involved because as a teacher, I saw firsthand the obstacles and disparities students and families faced every day. I saw parents working multiple jobs to make ends meet, students struggling with challenges outside of school that affected their ability to learn, and educators doing everything they could. Those experiences reinforced my belief that the decisions made in Harrisburg have real consequences in people's lives. Too many families are struggling with rising costs like childcare, housing, utilities, and groceries. Healthcare is getting more expensive while our services and coverage get cut. Education is still underfunded, and taxpayers are burdening that cost. People are working hard, doing everything right, and still falling behind. I'm running to make life more affordable and make sure you have access to quality health care and ensure our children have a good education.
Talk about how you already flipped school boards and township seats in the district and are ready to take your proven track record of getting results to the state senate.
I've served my community in many different ways. As a volunteer firefighter, an organizer, and someone who has worked to elect leaders who put working families first. Together, we've flipped school board seats, elected good people to local office, and built strong grassroots power throughout the district. We've shown that when people come together around a common purpose, we can make real progress. I've spent years building victories in our communities. Now I'm ready to take that same commitment to delivering results to the Pennsylvania State Senate.
What is being done about child care costs in Western Montgomery County, and how will you address these high costs?
Child care costs are simply out of control. In Pennsylvania, the average cost rose from $10,000 in 2020 to $13,000 in 2024 per child. 30% increase, outpacing overall inflation. For many families, child care costs are now more than a mortgage or college tuition. Right now, Pennsylvania only offers a modest tax credit to encourage employers to help workers pay that child care. I support legislation from Senator James Malone to dramatically expand this program by increasing the credit from 30% to 100% of employer contributions, up to $10,000 per employee annually. That would cover almost 75% of average costs of childcare and give employers a real incentive to help working parents. The existing credit was a really good first step, but families need much more relief. We need to make sure that childcare is more affordable so parents can stay in the workforce without being crushed by the costs.
Why are costs so high in Western Montgomery County, and what is your plan to lower them?
The cost of living is putting enormous pressure on families across our region. Whether it's groceries, utilities, childcare, housing, or healthcare, too many people feel like they're working harder than ever just to stay in the same place. Yet despite these challenges, the Republican majority in the Pennsylvania State Senate has repeatedly blocked common sense legislation that would help lower costs and provide real relief for working families. Instead of tackling the issues people face every day, they have stood in the way of measures that would make childcare more affordable, put money back in workers' pockets, protect consumers, and support families struggling to make ends meet. For instance, I have 5 policies that I support. Banning surveillance pricing in Pennsylvania. Surveillance pricing is when big corporations use your personal data to charge consumers the highest price they think they'll pay. I also support prohibiting dynamic pricing on essential goods like groceries. Working families shouldn't face constantly changing prices for necessities while corporations use new technology to maximize their profits at our expense. Number 2, I support Governor Shapiro's Lightning Plan. Utility costs are out of control. While utility companies seek higher rates, working families are left paying the bill. I support Governor Shapiro's plan to hold utilities accountable and protect consumers from unjustified rate increases. But accountability isn't enough alone. Pennsylvania needs more reliable energy generation to meet our growing demand. I support investment in new energy projects, including renewables and increased supply to lower costs over time. While we also need to modernize and strengthen our electric grid. Extreme weather is becoming more common, and every major outage costs consumers and taxpayers. Investing in a more resilient grid will help reduce disruptions while keeping costs down in the long run. Number 3, no one should have to choose between their family and their paycheck. That's why I support establishing a statewide paid family and medical leave program, ensuring all Pennsylvanians can care for themselves and a loved one or a new child without risking their financial security. I support guaranteeing paid parental leave for all Pennsylvanians so families don't have to choose between a paycheck and the time needed to recover, welcome a new one, and grow their family. That was number 4. Number 5, I support the Working Pennsylvanians Tax Credit. This would provide much needed assistance with the costs of childcare, food, transportation, clothes, and other household expenses for working families living paycheck to paycheck.
Talk through your education platform.
My platform is simple: fairly and fully fund public education. We need to fully implement a fair funding model in Pennsylvania. Right now, local governments are left to shoulder the burden of underfunded schools, outdated facilities, insufficient materials, overworked staff, and students who come to school hungry and unsupported. Too often, local school boards are forced to raise taxes or take on debt, placing an unfair strain on families, especially those on fixed or limited incomes. A child's education should not depend on their zip code. That system is unfair, unnecessary, and according to the Pennsylvania courts, unconstitutional. A fairly funded model exists that would redistribute resources based on student need and district capacity. Implementing it would reduce long-term costs for taxpayers, strengthen local communities, and ensure every child has access to a quality education.
Why is healthcare still so hard to access and afford in PA Senate District 24, and what is your plan to fix that?
Healthcare remains too hard to access and afford in Senate District 24 because of continued consolidation and cuts to local services. When major systems scale back or eliminate critical care, the impact on patients and families is immediate. We've seen this firsthand with the loss of Tower Health Services at Pottstown Hospital, including the ICU, maternity ward, and cancer treatment center, along with hundreds of jobs cut. As a result, essential services like step-down care and cancer treatment have been reduced to or moved out of the community entirely, forcing patients to travel farther for care at the worst possible moments in their lives. To address this, I support ending surprising medical billing so families aren't hit with unexpected, unaffordable costs. We need greater transparency and stronger protections for local communities, with private healthcare companies held accountable for the decisions that drive up costs or reduce access. Finally, we must recognize that decisions made by Republicans in Washington, D.C. and Harrisburg have contributed to rising healthcare costs and reduced access. We need leaders willing to put their patients and our communities ahead of their corporate profits.
What are the biggest issues facing voters in Western Montgomery County heading into this 2026 state Senate race?
At the doors, at community events, and on the phone, I hear the refrain time and again: costs are too dang high. From gas to groceries to utility bills, from prices keep going up with no end in sight. Working families are struggling to keep up, and far too often they are left with tough choices. Do I pay for food or medication? Do we go with AC or fill up the tank? These are the types of conversations that families are forced to have because of irresponsible choices made by current leadership in the state Senate. These families are working hard and playing by the rules, but struggling to get ahead. It's time for leadership that puts their needs first and delivers on the promise of a fair shake.
Talk about how you represent a new generation of leadership, live the challenges, and have a plan to solve them.
I grew up in a working class family with deep Pennsylvania roots. A family of veterans, coal miners, educators, and corrections officers. A family that worked hard, stayed late, and never asked for more than their fair shot. We were taught that service to community and country is an honor, and that honesty, integrity, and fairness aren't just values you talk about, they're values that you live. The politics I practice are grounded in those lessons, not in any one party or in the pursuit of power, but in the belief that people deserve transparency and accountability from their leaders, and should expect the same from the government that represents them. My focus moving forward is on delivering solutions that are practical and achievable. For too long, politicians have failed to deliver, and I intend to be part of a new generation of leadership that earns voters' trust, takes the values my family taught me, and works tirelessly to ensure people get a fair shot.
Why aren't wages keeping up with the cost of living in PA Senate District 24? And how will you work to fix that?
So not only do we need to work to bring costs down, we need to work to raise folks' wages. It's past time to raise the wage in Pennsylvania and ensure it keeps pace with the cost of living. The minimum wage has been stuck at $7.25 an hour since 2009, while costs for housing, food, and transportation have always continued to rise. Roughly 60,000 Pennsylvanians are still paid the minimum wage. Raising it would immediately lift workers out of poverty, reduce reliance on programs like SNAP, CHIP, and WIC, and strengthen the overall economy. While people earn more, they spend more in their communities, and taxpayers save in the long run. This is a practical, common sense step that helps workers strengthen and it strengthens our state budget at the same time.
Talk about how working people are the backbone of your district, and you will fight to make sure Harrisburg treats them that way.
Working people built this district. They're the teachers educating our children, the nurses caring for our families, the first responders keeping us safe, the tradespeople building our communities, and the workers who keep our economy moving every single day. I come from a proud union family. I've been a teacher. I'm a volunteer firefighter. I've spent my life around people who work hard, contribute to their communities, and simply want a fair shot to succeed. Heck, my first job growing up was mowing grass in the summers. More often than not, the government fails to listen to working people. That's why I'll fight every day in Harrisburg to make sure their voices are heard, because if you help build Pennsylvania, you deserve a fair shot in Pennsylvania. I promise to give you that fair shot.